So I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually a little bit scared to make this video just because the 2025 AFL draft rankings on all these different type of players is just continuing to change so much. Again, you got a guy like Dyson Sharp, who I think like a month ago was a consensus number one pick on a lot of people's draft boards, and you've got a guy like him who's fallen out of legit some people's top 10, which I don't think is where I'm going to be going in this video. I haven't gone that far on him, but it just shows you how many people have their different opinions on this. So of course today I'm doing, or going to attempt to try and do, my own 2025 AFL way too early mock draft. Again, the reality is though, is by the time I'm making this video and whatnot, this is probably all going to change. I'll be editing this video and one of these guys will jump up to the pick 1 projection, or one of them will fall out of the top 10. So if you guys do happen to disagree with something I say in here, please don't go in the comment section down below and threaten my whole entire family tree. Again, I understand this shit is going to change so much, and by the time we get to the actual 2025 AFL draft, it is going to look way different than this, and there's no way it's going to be the same. So of course I'm doing this draft board as well on what it kind of looks like at the time of making this video. So the draft, like where the teams are selecting, this could of course all change. Like Richmond, you know, it could win next week and jump up 1 or 2 positions and have like a different type of pick. So it's going to be like that. And the only other change I'm doing right now is I'm actually going to be giving West Coast the 2nd overall pick in this mock draft that I'm doing right now. And the reason I say that is because I genuinely believe with how everything is going, Oscar Allen, I think, is almost a lock to leave. Like, I'd be legitimately surprised if he re-signed right now. Apparently the offers that he's getting from Brisbane and Hawthorn are like double what West Coast are giving him. And the reality is that West Coast get a pick 1 compensation by the AFL, a round 1 compensation by the AFL, which will be next to where they are on the ladder, which is pick 2. So that's why I've got them having 1 and 2, for those of you who were legitimately wondering. It's just also to spice up this video a little bit more and differentiate it from the other creators who are making these. So I guess without further ado, enough rambling, right? We'll start off with the 1st overall pick, and I've seen everyone and their dad have a different guy going with this 1st overall pick. And again, with pick 1, I might be a little bit different here too, but I've actually got the West Coast Eagles selecting Willem Dersma. I had one job and I cooked it. I've got the Eagles taking Willem Dersma, which a lot of people have them taking him. There are some other people who have them taking Duff Tytler. I've seen Dyson Sharp. I've seen a bunch of different other guys, but I think Willem Dersma makes a whole lot of sense as a 191 centimeter inside midfielder. Again, I actually had the opportunity to watch him play a couple of games last year, and I can say that this guy, he floats around a lot. Like, even though I want to call him an inside midfielder because that's where I think he will play on the Eagles, I think there are a lot of teams who are going to see him as a wing. And of course, I think it was in the academy game, they actually played him as a half back because obviously they had so many good inside midfielders. They knew Dersma could play there. They wanted to see where he goes in other spots. And yeah, he has played as a halfback before. He also has done some kicking out duties, of course, for his under-18 team, the Gippsland Power. And I think he's just such a great utility that he can basically go everywhere. Like, I think if he was to go to a team like Richmond, per se, he would probably be on the wing, I think, because they're desperately looking for one of them. But the Eagles are desperately looking for an inside midfielder, and I think that's where Willem Dersma prefers to play. Again, I've been pretty vocal about this on the channel. I'm not that big of a fan of his brothers and the way they play, but in my opinion, Willem Dersma is already much better than what his brothers were, I think, at this age, or at least that's just my opinion. And I think he plays his game a lot different. I think he's more of an aerial threat, especially more than Xavier. Zane might be a little bit of a argument on that because we've seen some of the great marks he's already taken, but he's got the ability to move around the ground like Xavier, the aerial threat like Zane, but also a different ability like none of the other guys have is that he's a really good player on the inside. So I think he'd be a great pick for the Eagles here at 1. He also is related to Harley Reid's girlfriend, Yasmin Dersma, which, I mean, considering they're already mates, it's just an extra bonus, so that might be able to help keep Harley to the team. Again, at pick 2, I've got a guy going here to West Coast too. Some people have had dropping, which I think is kind of crazy, but that's actually Fred Rodriguez. Now, he, a couple months ago, was one of those guys who really rose up this draft board, and of course, is a guy now who some have dropping. I don't have him dropping yet. Again, I still need to see more of him before I would drop him, but I still think he's a prime top 5 candidate here. And the West Coast Eagles, of course, you know, they're going to be, I think, interested in taking a guy who's from Perth, and Rodriguez is exactly that. He's a 183 centimeter inside midfielder who's really, really quick. Again, on that inside, some people have questioned his ball use, especially his handballing, but I love his running and transition work so far around the ground that we've of course seen. And how West Coast are building this midfield, they're going to want to have some different players here and there. You know, they'll have that inside ball, creative decision maker in Harley Reid. Of course, Dersma, a guy can go in there and be more of that utility player. Now you got Fred Rodriguez who'll go in there and be that speed that I think the Eagles will desperately need. Again, a WA boy as well. I think the connection is there and it kind of just makes sense in my opinion. Again, with the 3rd overall pick, I've got a guy going to Richmond who I think a lot of people think could go pick 1, and that happens to be Cooper Duff Tytler. Now, Duff Tytler is, of course, the 199 centimeter, 200 centimeter ruckman who can obviously play as a key forward as well. Again, he gets like 20 disposals per game for fun in there. Not only is he really good ruckman, but he's basically an extra midfielder. And I think with Toby Nankervis, I think he's, you know, that 31, of course, turning 32 next season type of age range. Again, I think he'll play another year or 2 with the Tigers. And then, as we know, from all reports, Tasmania really want to bring in a lot of veteran, experienced players. And considering Toby is from Tasmania, I do think the writing is on the wall for probably by the time Tassie come in the league in a couple of years, Toby might, of course, go and play a season or 2 up there. So the Tigers probably only have 1 to 3 years left of Toby Nankervis. Again, I definitely said that wrong. He'll definitely be there for more than 1. They've got up to 3 years, I think. I should have said, of Toby Nankervis. And I think they're going to want to develop a ruckman in now. This is obviously the best one in the draft class. And by the time he's 21 years old, Nank probably won't be on the team anymore. And he'll be ready to go as the main ruckman. And so I think that's a great option. The Tigers are obviously looking for their 3rd, you know, key forward as well. They'll, you know, they have Lynch, I think, for another year probably after this. But Armstrong, Fall, and Sims will be, you know, all in there, rotating around on who's playing best, you know, in that forward line. But I think Duff Tyler could spend some time in there too. So I think that makes it's an obvious decision for me. I think Richmond look at him. Again, with the 4th overall pick, we've got the Tigers again because they've got North's pick. And I think they will select Zeke Yuland here, which will get, of course, matched by the Gold Coast Suns. Again, a 178 centimeter, you know, midfielder slash halfback who I think some websites have got him now at 180, so that's interesting. Again, Yuland's an interesting guy. I actually don't know where he's going to play in the AFL because I think he's a little bit different to his brother Bodie in terms of he's obviously much more of an inside midfielder, and he'll probably be like that at Gold Coast because they've obviously got a ton of halfbacks. But with the AFL midfield just getting so much taller and taller, and a smaller midfielder now being considered at 183, I don't think him being like a 178 guy will really stop anything. I mean, Dion Prestia dominated for years at 175. I don't think it makes that much of a difference. So he probably will be an inside midfielder for them. Again, arguably the best player in the draft. There's really nothing he is like bad at to any extent. I think a really good player that Gold Coast I mean, they're just lucky they get another one of these guys. It's crazy. Again, with the 5th overall pick, though, I think Richmond will look at Dyson Sharp here. Again, the 188 centimeter inside midfielder who is from South Australia. It is a little concerned by some teams. I think they're worried about if he will go or stay. Again, Dyson Sharp is another one of those guys, though, who can play a lot around the ground. Again, I think he's actually spent a lot of time on the wing and on the halfback as well. He's not really much of a guy who goes up forward. But I think at Richmond, he would obviously be an inside midfielder. Again, a bigger body guy who's good out of the stoppage. Strong and contested guy who can float around. Again, if they don't take him, I've seen people say that they may look at Sam Grill, who is a guy who was like ranked in the 10 to 20s. And I'll talk about him as well here because I think he's another massive opportunity that Richmond could obviously take. Again, he's a 183 centimeter inside mid who probably fits more of what Richmond are looking like. Again, an inside midfielder who's really quick out of the stoppage. Again, I actually heard, I think it was Dylan Alexander who compared him to a Max Holmes in there as well for his two-way play and his, quickness in the stoppage. And a younger Chris Judd, which I think is really, really interesting, and I like that. And I mean, Dylan Alexander, he knows a lot, so I kind of really trust his judgment on that one. I think Richmond will take either here. I mean, Grill probably makes more sense for their team, but in saying that, I think Dyson Sharp is arguably nearly the best player in this draft. So it's an interesting one. It's really where Richmond are going to go for this. I think that Richmond do have to get Sam Grill in this draft, and I mean, who knows? If Duff Tyler does go 1, Richmond could be taking like Sharp at 3 and then Grill at like 4 or 5, right? That could be something that we maybe see. So, interesting one there. Again, pick 6, I have Essendon selecting. They've, of course, got Melbourne's pick. And I've got them selecting Ryan Onley, the 194 centimeter inside midfielder who is, I mean, he's like that Josh Smiley, Patrick Cripps type that we have, of course, been seeing. I think that Essendon, their midfield is actually like better than what a lot of people thought it was going to be, but I still think they desperately need that guy in there who's a massive contested stoppage player, especially with Zach Butters being able to move so much up the ground and playing forward more now. Again, Darcy Parish has been injured a lot and he has his critics. I think they do need that really big, tall, contested inside midfielder in there who I think would make a lot of sense for Essendon. And yeah, we'll see. They've got a lot of midfielders, but Ben Hobbs, he's working out a little bit more now, but Elijah Sardis is still not getting a game. So their young midfielders really haven't been what they, I think, hoped they would be. Again, with pick number 7, though, I have Sydney selecting Louis Emmett, who, again, is the next best ruckman available. A ruckman who I think will probably go or contend to be top 10 in this draft class. Again, I think Sydney, it's really interesting. It's how you look at Brodie Grundy, right? So Brodie Grundy has his critiques, and I'm one of them. I haven't been the biggest Brodie Grundy fan, and I think what he did for Sydney was really good last year, but he hasn't been that good this year, and he had a couple years where he wasn't that good before his last year on Sydney. Again, he has really, in my opinion, not done well as he's gotten older, and the reality is that I don't think he's going to be able to be a long-term ruckman like I see what Nank's going to be able to go to, what Gawn's been able to do, what even Todd Goldstein's been able to do. I think Brodie Grundy has one more year of probably getting a consistent game in Sydney, and I don't know what the future looks like after that. Again, Laddams has had a little bit more of football play this year as well. I think Sydney could look at maybe drafting their future ruckman here, and I think Louis Emmett would be a really interesting guy to, of course, select. Again, kind of similar to that Grundy mold where he is the 200 centimeter guy who can play and move all around the ground. That's what Louis Emmett is, and I think that's what Sydney are going to be maybe looking at. Again, kind of like Duff Tyler too. He's just really good around the ground and can get like 20 disposals for fun. So I think Louis Emmett makes a lot of sense for Sydney there. Again, that pick number 8 though, we got St Kilda, and I think they will select Max King, which will, of course, get matched by Sydney. So Sydney get back-to-back picks here. That's another reason I have them taking a ruckman, is because they actually get another midfielder here. The 191 centimeter inside midfielder, Max King again. Will he play straight away for the Swans? I'm not too sure. But the reality is that you add another midfielder to this really nice depth that they've got, which gives you more room and space to eventually keep having Heaney go forward, Warner rotating down there, whatever it might be. So again, Sydney get back-to-back picks here. Louis and Max King, in my opinion, a ruckman and an inside midfielder will really help them with their future. Again, pick 9, though, St Kilda, they have to get an inside midfielder, and there so happens to be one really good one here in Oliver Greaves, the 191 centimeter inside midfielder who's an inside bull, obviously. Again, the Saints have been so desperately looking at one of them for a couple of years now, and the reality is that they're going to have to get one eventually. I mean, they brought in Jack McRae, and I think will be a short-term replacement, to what they've needed. Again, he's been so goddamn good this year, but he's obviously in his 30s, and I don't know what the future of him is going to fully look like. Again, we're going to remember he couldn't get a game at the Dogs through a lot of last year. So, again, they still need an inside midfielder, whether you're going to have Jack McRae still playing for the next couple of years. You got Jack Steele in there, a couple other guys, but you need that inside midfielder, and I think Oliver Greaves is that one, so I like that. Again, pick 10 now, we have Essendon again. So, I've mentioned them getting an inside midfielder. Now I think it's time for them to get a key forward, which is Archie Littlewick. To them, of course, the 197 centimeter Sandringham Dragon key forward, I think, is obviously the best key forward in the draft class, especially if we are not having Duff Tyler as a key forward, which the fact is he can just play. He's that crazily good at everything. But Archie Littlewick, who I used to pronounce as Lidowick, it turns out it's not that. But yeah, he will be a key forward that they really need. I think they've got Peter Wright actually playing really good footy right now, and Nate Caddy in there. But I still think modern day teams are like having 3 key forwards. Brisbane and Sydney entered grand finals with that. So I think you need another one here. And I think Littlewick is actually a pretty good option for them. So really interesting. That's my top 10 so far. It's going to completely probably change a bit. Again, Richmond was the one that was interesting to me because at 5, I kind of had them taking Sharp, but I think Grell could also go with that pick. So it was like, who do they go with there? And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. It's going to definitely change, but I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions on this all in the comment section down below. Please don't forget to make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all the latest AFL content and news. Go and subscribe to my gaming channel, which will be linked in the description down below. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.